In this video, we're going to talk about something which I'm asked quite often, which is around how to add working forms to our web page and how we can go about doing that. So I've got everything down to the most basic. No CSS is written. I've just added this element on the page called form, and inside a form we can add inputs. And inputs don't need closing, just as a note. And inputs have an attribute called type. And you can see there's an entire list of them here. We'll talk about a few of them today. So the first one we're going to talk about is text and how that looks on a web page. And this is just a simple text box that we can type within. Let's talk about another type of input. Oh, don't know why they went like that. Let's talk about number, because number looks very similar to the text one, but we can only put, like, it will only work if there are numbers in it. It'll tell you you're wrong otherwise. And we have an increment and decrement button here. Let's talk about another type of input. Let's talk about a type of password. Now, password, when you type characters into it, it automatically turns them into these little bullet points, which is something you've probably seen on the web before. What else is there? We can create an input with a type of file. And this will give us a browse, and we can select files and put them inside. Now, there are a whole bunch of others. We definitely don't have time to go through them all today. Just to take a look through here. So we have checkboxes, we have dates, we have colors, we have date time, we have emails, which will validate the format of the email to have some letters at something dot something. Month. We spoke about radio buttons are the little round ones where you can only select one in a set. The final one we'll talk about today, though, is submit. Because submit is just a button which will submit into the form. Submit can also take a value, so we can change this to go. And then instead of saying submit query, it will say go. Now I'm going to remove some of these. I'm going to remove everything but the text. And in here, we can give it a value, and this is a value will populate it. So say hi, and that will automatically. Oh, let's refresh that, and we're back. Little weird browser bug there where it didn't refresh properly, but there we are. My form does say hi in it, and if I refresh now, that will stay the same. We can change value for placeholder, and this is where it becomes quite fun around design, because the placeholder is this little grey text that we type over, and so we do that by using an attribute called placeholder. The final thing we do need, though, as a necessity for this input is a name, and the name will tell us what this input is meant to be. So let's call this one first name. And we never see this, but when we submit the form, it's important that we have it. Let's move this over here. Let's actually also copy this and create an input called email. Let's call the placeholder here, first name, and that will display. Let's call this one email address, and the name will be email. And names shouldn't have spaces in them. So first name underscore and email will do fine there. So if we refresh this, we now have two fields, a first name and an email, that if it doesn't have the correct formatting, will give us this little error. But that would be a valid email address in formatting. And when we hit go, something will happen. Let's talk about what we do. So if we want to submit this form, there are several ways in which we can do it. We can host this on a server and handle the form submission ourselves. But in most cases, especially at this level, we probably just want to send as an email or something quite easy. And there's this service called FormSpree, which I would recommend. Their free plan will probably, unless you're getting more than 1,000 submissions a month at the time of recording, it should be fine. And we'll see this HTML here. This is very similar to what we've written so far. Let's copy this and let's change our form for this and kind of look at what's different. There we are. So the first thing we'll notice is a couple of attributes on the form itself. The first is the method, and we're not going to talk much about this today, but we use a post method in order to post data from the form. And then our action is where this data will be sent. And in this case, we're going to send it to forms https://formspree.io/ whatever your email address is. Put that in here. So this is, hi@underland.xyz, for example. Then we have an input with a type of text, and we could also put a placeholder in again. We have an input with the type of email, and this one has a name of _reply to, and we'll talk about why in a moment. And then finally an input with a value of send. So if we go back to our web page and refresh this, it looks very similar, except it says send this time and our placeholders have disappeared. Now, why does it have a name of _reply to? This is actually FormSpree configuration, which you can look at on their website. But essentially, if someone puts an email address inside of an input with the name of reply to, when you get the email, you can actually, believe it or not, reply to it, and that will be, it will automatically put them in the to. And then there are a whole bunch of other attributes we can put in, and you can read about those on the FormSpree website. But if I was to now go ahead and submit this form, the first time it will get me to confirm that I own the email address by clicking a link in an email it sends me, and after that it will just automatically send the email to my email address. So we're using FormSpree in order to handle our HTML forms today.